Welcome once again to the Neptune DXP SAP Edition Expert eLearning. And today we'll be learning all about remote debugging. This is a very simple session. After today's session, you'll be able to know when and how to use remote debugging, set up a remote debug against a specific user, and you will know what type of informations are you getting from the debugger. And today we will be talking about remote debugging, which is a functionality available in the cockpit of the SAP Edition. Remote debugging is a tool that is available in the SAP Edition and will allow you to debug or to verify when a user has an application running in their devices, they have error messages, so you want to check how they're using the app remotely. Okay, it's very simple to use but very powerful tool. To use it, then you need to identify the user that is going to be monitored. I will add myself, and I have two options here. One is enabled, okay, and the other is hide debug buttons on client. At the moment, I will leave it empty just to show you what it does. Now that I have my debugging there open, I just need to interact with my application. It's important to know that remote debugging only works in the context of a launchpad. So you won't be able to debug applications directly. Always using it inside a launchpad, either in the desktop or in a mobile device, in a mobile client. And once the user launches the launchpad, he will notice something new there. On the top right side appears a button, okay, and this is showing me that I'm in debug mode. Somebody is monitoring all my activities from this launchpad. And it's a counter depending on the number of errors, of success, or warnings I'm getting debugging this application, okay? So let's start using this application. Let's say I open my first app and I do a little bit of interactions. And whenever I go back to the remote debugging and I click on update, I will see that some information has been saved here. If I choose my user and go to open log for selected user, I can see the activity. And this activity, so far, it's very simple. So it's opening this launchpad. It has registered the opening of the launchpad and also the navigation to my first application. If I navigate to my second application inside my launchpad, then as well it will have it registered here. Now will be interesting to know how can I record some logs in my application. And let's say that in my application that I have here inside my launchpad, at the press event, I want to record which data has been selected. So I can do just console log and then data. Activate. And when I run again my application and my launchpad, I click on my app, I select my line item. I will select more than one just to show you. And notice that the counter is incrementing. And somebody in the back office can see the remote debugging, update it, and they will see the data that has been recorded. So just because I added that console log with the item pressed, I can see the value here. So this is a good way just to verify if there is any problem with an application, to verify if the problem is coming from the data or it's a problem with the application itself. And also we can monitor JavaScript errors here. Let's say that I want to write here console log ABC, which I know it's a function that doesn't exist. So this should trigger an error in my application. Activate, reload my application, open again my application, clicking on them, and I can see that the error messages counter is increasing. Then when I go to remote debugging and I update, I can see here the 5 errors. Console.abz is not a function. So this way we can also verify that if there is any JavaScript error happening in my application, they will be appearing in the remote debug. From this list, I can always remove it. I recommend that you don't leave the remote debug open for all your users all the time. And as soon as you finish with the remote debug for a specific user, you should remove it, because that means that if you leave it on, it will carry on registering every action of a user inside an application, and over time it will create performance issues because there will be a lot of data coming in and coming out from the application, saving it into this tool. You could also add a remote debugging without the user knowing. If you tick on this checkbox, okay, hide debug button on client, add the user, and then whenever the user is accessing the launchpad, he won't be able to see the counter. And anyway, all the activities happening inside the application will be registered here in the logs. It may happen that you have a lot of interaction within an app. Of course, what we are seeing today is a very simple scenario, but it may happen that you have thousands of lines here and it's difficult to understand when an error happened or where you need to check. So there are different filters here, so you can filter by errors, warnings, and messages of information, for example. And I could also filter by date. So I want to check all the interactions happen today. Or you can search also for a specific type of error or message or text within my error. As a recap for this session, remember that you can only debug in launchpads or mobile clients. You cannot try the remote debugging directly in applications. Also remember to disable or delete a user from the remote debugging after your checks are done. Otherwise, you will run into performance issues and a lot of data will be recorded in the logs. Also, remember that console logs writes directly into the remote debugging, so you can use it to verify data inside your application. Also, all type of JavaScript errors are visible within the remote debug. That's it for this session. Thank you very much. Happy learning and see you next time.